I'm going to go to Staffy to begin with. Ruben Amorim is now the Manchester United manager. It's been formally announced today. That is over the line. A new era for our club begins. How excited are you about the season ahead now and life after Ten Hag?
I can go back to enjoying my club. I can go back to enjoying my team. I no longer have to watch games and worry that if we win today, it's a shithouse win where papers over the cracks. I don't have to sit here and worry about being gaslight by my manager when we perform poorly and we win the game, and then he lies about processes and patience this, patience that. I don't no longer have to worry about that. I can go back to doing what I enjoy doing, which is just being a fan, just sitting there, enjoying the game, hoping the best for my team, hoping that we pick up 3 points every time we play, hoping that every time we play, everyone looks no agendas, no this. Hey, even you mentioned it the other day. Bruno did something well, and I just liked your tweet. Because why not? Bruno was balling the other day. You think if Bruno was balling under Amorim, I'm gonna have an issue with it. My agenda has always been clear, which is I want Man United to be the best club in the world. And if we're moving like that, then I hope it works. You know, Ruben Amorim achieved a few things in Portugal. Very like highly rated in his own country. I see a lot of Sporting Lisbon fans actually under certain Man United content creators channels leaving comments about how they should be patient with him, what good he's brought to their club, how successful he's been, how we brought him back to winning after like years of not winning the league. I think it was exactly 16 years where they haven't won the Portuguese league. Now he won them 2 in 4 years. His character, the way he communicates with his players, with the fans, the word, I mean, people overuse this word, but even his aura around the club, how his presence is noticed. And if you could bring all this to Man United, I'll be very happy. I'm not going to jump the gun. I'm not going to say anything crazy because a lot of people are like, oh, he's doubt to fail. No, he's not going to fail just because 5 other managers failed. And he's also not going to automatically win the league because Ineos hired him and it's not the Glazers. There is no reason why I could look at Amorim right now and say, this guy's going to win us the league in the next 2-3 years. He could, but the likelihood is that he won't. And that's fine. That's how it is in football. I think the likelihood of a manager failing at a club or not winning at a club and actually winning, the percentage is much higher. So I'm just going to wish him the best. I will back him as long as he's acting correctly. There's no guarantees, by the way, that in 3 years I won't be saying Ruben Amorim out because I don't know what he's going to be doing in the meantime. But I will give him the time that I give Ten Hag, the time that I give Mourinho, the time I give Oli, the time I gave everyone. And I have a good feeling about it. 100%.
I think that's sensible. That's sensible from Staffy.
That's what Staffy's sensible after all. Oh my God.
That was the most sensible thing you've ever said. And yeah, listen, I agree. Cautious optimism, I think, is how.
Because my emotions are not clouding me right now, Lawless. And you need to understand that I hated Ten Hag. Like when I told you I wish he never gets a job in a top 5 league again, I was not joking. I pray he gets a job in the MLS so at least I can go hackle him when he's here. Yeah. I just want to remind him of how much I don't like him and how much he ruined my football club.
But that's why Ten Hag should be a lesson. Because a lot of Man United fans wanted him. A lot of Man United fans were excited at the signing of Ten Hag, predicted and hoped for a lot of big things. And, you know, so that's why it's always good to remember that, but cautiously optimistic. You know, Amorim, someone West Ham were talking to, I wanted him at the club, you know, a very progressive young manager who has a record of improving clubs and taking clubs, you know, that where they should be once great clubs and putting them back at the top. You know, that's kind of what you want. It's all about if he can do it at Man United with this team. I don't think coming in, he has the squad that he needs. It's going to take some transfer windows to really build and shape that squad, get a lot of deadwood out of that and really, you know what I mean, build that up into his image and then to see what he can do. But it's going to take some serious money. But I'm interested to see, because what he needs to do is coming in is to try and get the best out of what he's got. You know what I mean? And that's going to be the challenge. And whatever system he's going to play, yeah, that's the interesting.
I think what's really interesting, again, cautious optimism. I love that. I like how it sounds, and I think it's right. What I am really liking, you get comments like this. One of our members, respect you as a member, but it says nothing is fixed after Ten Hag sacking. Amorim is the new United victim. Fans like Staffy will turn on him in 12 months, never mind 18. Now, what I want to say about you see comments like this. You see comments about, I'm not worried, nothing's changed at Man United. It's the same as before. It doesn't matter how good the manager is, how good the head coach is, nothing will ever improve. there's a flaw to that logic, and I could wait until everybody's spoken and then just drop the bomb on everybody, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say it from the beginning. For the first time post-Fergie, we've got football decision makers at the club with very good CVs. For the first time in our club's history, we have appointed a head coach. He is not the manager. The big headline on our website stated head coach. There is something, the fundamental change in direction is huge. Man United, 5 times on the bounce, failed because we tried to replicate what we had with Sir Alex, where a manager has huge control over the football club, the types of players we buy, the footballing philosophy. And therefore, by proxy, you're controlling all the other departments as well because they're working to bring to life your vision. This is something that I push back against with every single manager. Now, I don't think that Ten Hag is necessarily a bad coach. I'm a little different from Staffy. I definitely know that Jose Mourinho was a world-class coach, still is a very good coach. LVG was no bum. Ollie's a little different, but he did well. And David Moyes is David Moyes' level. But the biggest mistakes we made in the last 11 years was hiring managers and allowing them to dictate how the club would operate. So you don't need to like Amorim. You don't need to like Dan Ashworth. These things, you can say they're rubbish and go, I don't think it's going to work because you brought bad people in. Fine. I can accept that. What I can't accept and what has been debunked, and you're just flat out wrong when you say it, is this will fail because nothing's changed. Anybody, whether it's a top-level journalist, a bitter rival, or a weird kind of Man United fan who says it, they're just wrong. There is no debate to be had, in my personal opinion. Zero. I know some people have this weird philosophy of opinions can't be wrong. Like, if your opinion is nothing's changed, your opinion is wrong because factually it has. So for me, that's why I am excited. Amorim, yes, great. Some of the players we're looking at, brilliant. But it's about the overarching package. 11 years I've been screaming for this setup at my club. It's finally here, and I believe in it. And it doesn't necessarily... Go on, mate, go on.
I was going to ask you, how demoralizing do you think it will be to the fans of if it does fail with everything? Because you made a good point. Like, you've got the new structure and a quality manager. It should do well. But do you think, how demoralizing could it be as a fan where you have all of that and it still fails and you're like, well, what else can we do?
So this is the thing. It's always demoralizing when it doesn't work with a head coach or a manager, whatever your club sort of proposes. But Don can probably answer that question better than me. And I'll throw it to Don this way. Don, along with Ches and a number of other Chelsea fans, although the first 2 years under Clearlake and Todd Bowley didn't work in terms of reducing the results, of course, they called out the mistakes that led to that, but overall, they believed in the project still. So I think from a Man United fan point of view, and I'd love to throw this kind of question out to Don, if we start to see progression, we start to see the squad be like certain types of profiles consistently being bought, we're developing a good squad, but the head coach just isn't quite good enough to take us to that next level, I don't think it will completely demoralize us. And this is where Man United fans have got to understand we no longer have a manager. So it now means that every time a head coach is sacked, we are not starting again from scratch. That, for me, is why it's less demoralizing now if a head coach fails versus our previous setup and regime. And I'd love to kind of throw that over to Dom because it's similar to what Chelsea have been going through the last couple of years.
100%, bro. I spoke about it many times last season. Like, for me, the players weren't as bad as what we were seeing because the guy that was leading them was shit, bro. You know what I mean? And it's very clear to see now. Obviously, Maresca's had new signings in that, but everything about our style of play, like what Staffy's saying, the intangibles, off the pitch in terms of his aura, if you want to call it that. You know what I mean? How he managed the whole situation about the big squads telling the media off, pretty much the whole Chilwell situation. All of these things, bro, it adds to it. You know what I mean? It's not just about picking out a team. There's so many things you got to do as a manager. You know what I'm saying? So, end of the day, Lawless does make a good point because yes, you've got people up there with football brains and whatnot, but they still need to be making the right signings, Terry. Do you know what I mean? It's not just going to be on the manager, right? They need to be able to bring in the right sort of signings for whoever you're looking to bring in. Because right now, let's say you bring in Amorim and you completely go away from his sort of manager to someone else, you're going to have a few Man United fans saying, yo,
Well, yeah, if we do that and we buy bad players, of course we're going to criticize it. And there's a comment actually says, Terry, what guarantees you, or what proof have you got that suggests a new structure will do well? That's a separate conversation. And I've noticed this with what we're doing. That's a different conversation to what I brought up. I've said, if your rationale for us not working is because nothing's changed, that's wrong. If your rationale, and I'm going to throw this back as a question to you, Don, do you think our board are going to continue to buy bad players? And do you think we're going to keep changing the direction of head coach each time? Do you actually think that will happen?
Surely not. That's all I can say in it. Surely not. You know, right now I'm looking at Ineos because obviously they made that mistake of keeping Ten Hag. Like that was strike one for me where I'm looking at him thinking, raw, like they actually kept this guy, you know, after he won the FA Cup, you know, after everything that they've been seeing, you know, after Jimmy Boy came in with all the talk about, you know, we need to be performing on and off the pitch and all of these things. They decided to keep him, you know. But then again, it's still quite early into their tenure, Terry. I'm not one of these guys that's gonna. I've got the same energy that I had for Clear Lake. I said to Clear Lake, it's at the start of the tenure where they've made these mistakes. Same thing as Ineos, they can rectify them. So I highly doubt they're gonna be buying bums in it. You know what I mean? You're always gonna buy a bum or two. You know what I mean? Even if you're Pep, for example, right? But the main thing is, majority of the signings need to be successful, bro. And if you've got football people up there, it's more than likely that it will be, innit? Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, if you think about the signings we've just made already under them, so far, De Ligt's been very good. Maswari's been one of the best players in the league this season, positionally, like in terms of his position. There ain't many fullbacks that have been better than him as an individual. Ugarte hasn't got going yet, but he was great the other night. And look, he's definitely an Amorim type player, right? Because he's played with him before, did brilliantly. Yoro hasn't kicked a ball yet. He's been injured, so we can't judge. Xerxes hasn't looked great. I'll be honest, he hasn't looked great. He's had moments, he hasn't looked great yet. So based on Ineos's initial signings, and now with the coach we've got coming in, I think they've done a good job transfer-wise. It was rivals that were telling us all summer, bloody hell, United have done good business. United have done good business. Now that we've suddenly got an exciting manager that everybody knows is good, head coach, sorry, I've got to get the language right. Suddenly it's, but I think you're still buying bums. Where's that talk? Why suddenly the change in narrative, Staffy?
Oh, Terry, there was a bunch of Chelsea fans that were saying this is how Chelsea need to be moving when Ineos were making the signings that they were making. You know what I'm saying? So, end of the day, let's not try to change the narrative now. They have signed some good players, and like I said before, I don't think they're as bad as what they were. You know what I mean? I still think we're going to finish above them, but I don't think it's going to be a madness like what it might have been with Ten Hag. I think you've actually got a manager now that knows what he's doing. You know, I haven't really done much research on him. I've read up on him on The Athletic, Terry. To see what his strengths are and his weaknesses are, but I need to do a lot more research. Obviously, be watching closely in it because you've got a team where you can do something. But it'll be interesting to see who he's going to be looking at because you're changing the shape, bro. You know what's going to happen with Mainu, right? Where's Mainu going to play in that two-man midfield? What's going to happen with
central midfield? That's where that boy is going to be. Central midfield.
It's going to be intriguing. It's going to be interesting to see in it what happens because for me personally, Tuchel did well at Chelsea. I don't like going free at the back. I don't like that. You know what I mean?
I see one team sheet with Garnacho at left wing back. I was like, what's going on here? Like,
I mean, look, people are like
when
speculating
you see
around
these things, Lolis, you hear it one ear out of the other. Don't pay attention.
Listen, I did a 11 on the screen when I did a video the other day, and I had Rashford in that position, not because I think he'll play there. I just put him there for the sake of it, right? But there's options at the club. But this is also the narrative that I'm just not going to allow to be rewritten without challenge. Forget that Amorim's coming in now in November. The beginning of Ineos's actual takeover, which started in the summer where they could start making squad changes. We all said 3 years to build a squad. Suddenly, Amorim's come in. Everyone's gone, it's going to take 3 years, though, to build a team that can win a title. But we already knew that. Nothing's changed whether he came in the summer or whether he comes in now, in my personal opinion. I wanted some super chats on this before we go into the game that's up this weekend. It says Clear Lake's actions upon taking over the club were almost all viewed as poor, not by me. Let me rephrase that actually. I like their vision. I think they executed elements of it poorly in the beginning, is what I would say. 100%. In retrospect, where were they? We wouldn't have been at this point of growth if we hadn't have had those moves. Patience is a virtue. But I think it's, listen, I understand that. And I think there's elements of you did some wrong things with the coach hiring, as an example. And I think your first summer where you went for the sort of Koulibalis and Sterlings, if you'd have gone with what you're now doing, I think you would have been in a better position sooner. Yep. But you rectified them. This here says, if we do not smash you guys. Okay, we'll come back to that one later because it's about the game, my friend. Big respect. Terry always says United should buy players for the team and not the manager, but Amorim only wants his old players that fit the 4-3-3. What happens if he fouls and those players don't suit the new? Again, this is the point, right? So maybe you're missing out on these things here. When it comes to building a club philosophy, you need to build, again, I wouldn't want us to build one that's so unique that only one manager in the world can manage those players in that squad. You know, it's about buying profiles of players where there are not a litany, but there is a good, strong candidate list of other head coaches that can come in and coach that team. I don't believe footballers are as system-based and as robotic as people make out. You can see that with how good Liverpool currently look under Slot. And everybody's looking at, oh, wow, they're so much different to what they used to be. Slot himself has just said there's a few subtle differences, but overall, it's the same style of play. So I'm not worried about it at all. I'll tell you why, Mohammed, because it's how the majority of successful clubs, and we're talking pound for pound here, some are much poorer than a Man United, some are as rich. All the clubs that are currently are successful operate in the way in which you've just challenged. So I don't see why Man United would be the only one operating in that model that couldn't yield success and where it's a disaster if they have to change the head coach. Nowhere else. No one says that about Real Madrid. No one says it about Bayern Munich. Nobody says it about Dortmund. No one says it about Ajax. Nobody says it about City, although they ain't gone through manager. Nobody says it about those clubs and goes, oh, they're losing their manager. What's going to happen? They're going to fall off. They don't, do they? Invariably. Somebody else comes in and they pick up the mantle. I think it will be the same at Man United in time once we settle that in.
Do you think, though, if you do, you've identified, okay, this is how we're going to play, and if you do end up sacking him, you'll get a manager that plays a similar way rather than trying to...
It may not be the same formation, but this is the thing. The obsession in formations is crazy because, listen, a 3-4-3 in certain moments in the game is going to be a 5-4-1. In certain times, it's going to be a 3-4, whatever, like a 2-1. Like it will change depending on the team you're playing, home or away, personnel. So you might have another manager who specializes in 4-3-3. It isn't going to be a huge difference in the way you play. Now, if you build a team where you've got no one that can play left back or right back and they're all wing backs, you have to think long and hard about who then comes in as a manager. But I guarantee we build this squad where it isn't just players that we buy that can only play one position in that.